not common sense. Okay? As the elements decay, they produce helium. This helium slowly escapes through the rocks into the atmosphere. Very little is able to escape into space. After all factors are considered, the helium in the atmosphere indicates the Earth is less than 2 million years old. Interesting. Nobody's ever been able to fully answer the helium escape problem for the Earth. There's a great book, if you want all the technical stuff on carbon dating and potassium dating, available from ICR, called The Mythology of Modern Dating Methods. You can get it from icr.org if you want more on that. Actually, fossils are dated by the strata they are found in. They are not dated by carbon dating. This fellow says, ever since William Smith at the beginning of the 19th century, fossils have been and still are the best and most accurate method of dating and correlating the rocks in which they occur. Apart from very modern examples, which really are archaeology, I can think of no cases of radioactive decay being used to date fossils. So if somebody tells you they date fossils by radioactive dating, by carbon dating, you say, no, you're mistaken. They date them by which layer they come from. The whole thing is based on this geologic column, which is baloney. It doesn't exist anywhere in the world except in the textbooks. Radiometric dating is not possible if the geologic column had not been erected first. This fellow says the rocks do date the fossils, but the fossils date the rocks more accurately. Well, hello. It's based on circular reasoning. We cover lots more on that in video number 4. A couple of more here and we'll quit. This article says, in the last 2 years, an absolute date has been obtained for the Gandong beds above the Trentel beds. It has the very interesting value of 300,000 years, plus or minus 300,000 years. So they don't know, okay, how old it is. Moon rocks were brought back, and they were carbon dated, not carbon dated, but used potassium, argon, other kinds of dating methods on them. One specimen, rock specimen number 10017, was divided into 6 pieces and dated many times. The ages ranged from 2.5 billion to 4.6 billion. Again, about a 90% error from the same rock. I called James Dawson. He's the one who worked at NASA, Chief of Engineering and Operations at Lunar and Earth Science Division at the Manned Spacecraft Center in NASA in Houston. He worked on lunar samples, including the Genesis rock. He told me they found ages from 10,000 years to several billion years in the same rock. Well, they don't know how old the moon is, folks, or anything else. Actually, back in 1969, they were teaching the kids the moon is 3.5 billion years old. Today, they say it's 4.5 billion years old. They gained 1 billion years just in 30 years. There's a great chapter in the end of this book called Bones of Contention, a great chapter dealing with the dating game and how they change the dates whenever the need arises. So what about potassium-argon dating? Well, potassium has a much longer half-life. Half of it decays in 1.3 billion years. Now, of course, nobody watched it for 1.3 billion years. They watch it for 3 days in the laboratory and see how many molecules break apart, and then they extrapolate how long it would take for half of it to break apart. So the half-life is an extrapolation based on a 3 or 4 day test. Even though that sounds fishy, and it maybe is, I'll give them that, okay? We won't argue about the extrapolation for the half-life. We're going to assume you've accurately measured it. They will date a layer of lava or ash because it is supposed to reset the clock every time the volcano erupts. It's supposed to have 0 argon. It should all be potassium. Potassium then changes to argon. And so what they do, they look at the Earth and find different layers of ash where there's been a volcanic eruption. They will date the layers of ash, and any fossils found in between should be between those 2 numbers. This is how it's supposed to work. The KBS tuff had been dated, named for K. Brenzenmeyer, was dated using potassium-argon dating, and everybody said it was 212 to 230 million years old. This is back in 1970. Now watch this. In 1970, many people dated this layer of ash, and everybody agreed it's somewhere between 212 and 230 million. Some people would publish articles and say, oh no, it's 217 billion or million years old. Others would say, oh no, it's 229. You know, they would argue, but the arguments always were in that range, or else their article probably wouldn't get published. Well, then along comes Richard Leakey and messes everything up by finding a perfectly normal human skull under the KBS tuff. Well, if you've got a layer of ash 212 million years old and you find a normal skull under that, with no evidence of it being added later like a burial, you got a problem. So some people would say, see, this proves man was here 212 million years ago. Others would say, no, maybe this proves these layers are not different ages. They found this skull, KNMER 1470, found in 1972, under the KBS tuff by Richard Leakey. It looks like modern humans, but was dated at 2.9 billion years old. So, of course, they had to redate the KBS tuff. Had they not found that skull, nobody ever would have questioned the date of the KBS tuff. But because this skull messed everything up, they had to redate the tuff. They took 10 samples, dated it again, and now they got numbers from 0.5 million to 2.6 million. First of all, that's way down from 212 million. Secondly, that is a 500% error. They don't know the age of those things. Back in 1770, they were teaching the students the Earth might be 70,000 years old. By 1905, the official age of the Earth was 2 billion years old. In 1969, when they went to the moon, the official age of the Earth was 3.5 billion years old, published in all the papers and textbooks. Today, the students are taught it's 4.6 billion years old. Looks to me like the Earth's getting older about 21 million years per year. That's about 40 years per minute. We are aging rapidly, folks. Things to consider about potassium-argon dating. Wild dates are frequently obtained. The dates that don't fit the evolutionary theory are rejected and not published. Only correct dates are published, since they match the geologic column. It's based on the assumptions that the original content of the sample is known, the decay rate never changes, the sample's not been contaminated, and I'd like to point out, by the way, all decays are an indication of downhill trend, not evolutionary increasing complexity. Nobody's got an example of increasing complexity without enormous energy input. They dated ash from Mount Etna in Sicily. I climbed Mount Etna when I was out there, or climbed part of it. It erupted in 122 BC, but the lava gave a potassium-argon age of 250,000 years old, when they knew it's only 2,000 years old. In 1801, Hawaiian volcanic lava flow gave a potassium-argon age of 1.6 million, yet it's only 200. A volcano in Hawaii erupted in 1959, gave a potassium-argon age of 8.5 million years old. They took another sample from Mount Etna in Sicily, erupted 1964, but this time it gave a potassium-argon age of 700,000 years old.